on the occasion of World Kidney Day. And this year World Kidney Day observed on March 12, the second Thursday of March, with an aim to awareness of the importance of our kidneys. So today we have Dr. S. Anil Kumar Patra sir, who is our senior consultant and nephrologist and a kidney transplant physician at Apollo Hospital, Health City, Visakhapatnam. Welcome, doctor. Welcome to our Facebook Live session.
Thanks, Anuja. Anil Kumar, physician and transplant physician at Apollo Hospitals. This is World Kidney Day is observed on the second Thursday of March every year, and this is observed worldwide for creating an awareness about the kidney health and kidney disease. So every year we have a theme for the World Kidney Day. This year, a theme of World Kidney Day is kidney health for everyone, everywhere, from prevention to detection and easy access to care. So this is, as we all know, kidney has a lot of function to do in our body. First thing is its blood filtration or wastage clearance from the body. Our body is like a factory where a lot of waste products are produced every day, every minute. So that has to be cleared by the kidney. Other than this, there are a lot of other functions which are lesser known to the public. Kidney as an endocrine organ produces hormones to form or produce hemoglobin, that is blood in our body. And for the bone health, vitamin D production is there, which helps in calcium metabolism, absorption of calcium in the intestine, and for the strength of bone. And it also controls the sodium potassium balance in our blood. It also excretes the excess acid which is produced in the body. So a lot of functions are there in the kidney, which gets abnormal when the kidney function declines.
Thank you, doctor. Doctor, what are the common causes of kidney disease?
The most common cause for kidney dysfunction is diabetes mellitus. That is the only one cause of kidney disease which causes diabetic nephropathy, and also it's lead to chronic kidney disease. Chronic kidney disease, as we all know, are different stages. It may lead to end-stage renal disease, which is now called CKD, chronic kidney disease, stage 5, and the cause of dialysis and also kidney transplantation. If we see the number of patients who are undergoing dialysis in the dialysis center or the number of cases we undertake for transplantation, so around more than 50% patients will have diabetes. Diabetes is the cause of their kidney failure. When we include high blood pressure or uncontrolled blood pressure, hypertension, the numbers will reach around 80 to 90% of the patients who are suffering from kidney disease. So we control the blood sugar levels very well, and if you control the blood pressure by not only with diet, by lifestyle changes and also medication. So that's how we can prevent the progress of disease and also the chances of patient reaching to the stage of dialysis and the need for transplantation. Other than diabetes and blood pressure, high blood pressure, there are other causes like collagen disorders and genetic disorders. Like most common cause is autosomal dominant polycystic kidney disease, that is ADPKD. Other causes like when you have a acute kidney failure due to any cause like a diarrhea or malaria or typhoid, which leads to acute kidney dysfunction. Even though the kidney functions are reversible in these cases, which is called AKI, acute kidney injury, there is some structural changes will always persist in acute kidney injury patients, which later, unless otherwise properly followed up and treated well with diet restriction and also some few medications, they are also likely to progress over a period of time to chronic kidney disease.
Thank you, doctor. Doctor, what are the early symptoms of kidney disease?
See, kidney has a lot of reserve power. In fact, some people can have only one kidney from by birth, and they don't manifest any kidney disease symptoms. That means one kidney or 50% of the kidney function is sufficient for our body requirement. So when the person develops the signs and symptoms of kidney dysfunction, By such time, he or she will be losing say around 40 to 50% of the kidney function, and the patient starts having some symptoms and signs of kidney dysfunction. So one person who comes to you or to me with some kidney dysfunction features like breathlessness, swelling in the feet, decreased appetite, listlessness, that is not feeling well, high blood pressure, anemia, that is loss of the hemoglobin level. These are not very early signs of kidney disease, but if we check the kidney function regularly, particularly people who have high risk for developing kidney disease like diabetics or high blood pressure, or the persons who have a family history of kidney disease, those people, they should have a regular health checkup to detect the kidney dysfunction as early as possible, and earliest possible features which are not very eminent, very prominent to patients to develop. In those stages, if we detect like having some protein in the urine, uncontrolled high blood pressures, some frothy urine, swelling in the feet, these are the early signs and symptoms. One very early symptoms of kidney disease is nocturia, that is excess urine production in the night time. Suppose a person within the last few months develops frequency of urination, pass a lot of urine in in the night without any other causes, you should always suspect that probably the person is going to have early kidney disease, because the kidney loses its function to concentrate the urine. So that is the earliest feature of kidney disease.
Thank you, doctor. Doctor, how much fluid one should take for the healthy kidney?
So there's a very important question, because we face day in day out patients coming and asking how much water we should drink. See, there are different types of kidney disease. One is a chronic kidney disease, another is an acute kidney disease or acute kidney injury. And in chronic kidney disease, we have basically two types of kidney disease. One is a chronic glomerulonephritis. These are structural diseases in the kidney. The other one is a chronic tubulointestinal nephritis. So not going into that details. In basically the difference between these two diseases is one disease causes decrease in the urine output. So the person will have extra fluid inside the body. They will have breathlessness, they will have swelling of the body, and uncontrolled hypertension, the blood pressure. Whereas the other condition will have normal urine output. The person may be passing around say normal 2 to 3 liters of urine, but the quality of urine is not good. So the patient can have severe renal failure in spite of passing normal amount of urine. So depends like how much fluid overload is there in the body. Suppose a person has extra fluid in the body, that is extra water in the body, having breathlessness, there we need to restrict the water intake. Whereas person who is passing normal amount of urine, probably there is no need of restricting the water intake. But person who has normal kidney function, they also come and ask like how much urine or how much water we should drink in a day. So like we have a very control mechanism in the body for the requirement of water intake, that is controlled by our brain. So if you are you are feeling thirsty, drink water. That is the indication that the water content in our body is less, because the osmolality, that is the concentration of blood, is more. So that stimulates the thirst center and tells us that we should drink more water. So that is the most important thing. And on an average, one should be drinking say around 2 to 3 liters of liquids, not only water, it includes all the type of liquids. So 2 to 3 liters of liquid in a day should be sufficient. But people who sweat a lot, who go out and sweat a lot, or extra requirement is there, the patient is feeling more thirsty, they can drink 1 liter more, sufficient should be around 4 to 5 liters. But people sometimes advised to drink a lot of water, like to flush out the kidney, and the kidneys will improve. But this definitely it's not going to help you. It will cause more problem. There is a condition called water intoxication. When you have extra water in the body, particularly elderly people who are not able to excrete the extra water, they will have features of water intoxication. So elderly people who has less kidney function, whose hearts are not functioning properly, they should restrict the liquid intake instead of drinking excess water.
Thank you, doctor. Doctor, is there any medicine which can cause kidney disease?
Yes. See, in our country, we get almost all the medicines over the counter. So, over the counter drugs, unless otherwise properly prescribed by a physician, should always be avoided. Particularly painkillers, they are called NSAIDs. Painkillers, if they are taken over a long period of time, over years together, like some joint pain, some bone pain, people they take on their own painkillers for longer times, like 5 years, 10 years, or even decades together. So these painkillers are going to harm your kidneys. It causes like a slow poison to the kidneys, and this is a condition called analgesic nephropathy, where you will have irreversible damage to the kidneys, and the patient can land up in chronic kidney disease, stage 3, stage 4, or stage 5. This is irreversible, so should be very, very careful while taking over-the-counter medications. Once in a twice is not a problem, but always should have a proper prescription, how long you need to take, which medicine you need to take. Not only painkillers, there are other medications also which are going to harm your kidneys unless otherwise it is properly prescribed. So try to avoid always over-the-counter drugs.
Thank you, doctor. Doctor, how frequently one should check kidney function?
This again depends on any chronic health problems like non-communicable diseases we have, like diabetes or hypertension or a family history, or a person who is 40 years or above should have a regular health checkup at least once in a year. Or if you have some proteinuria or there is early signs of diabetic kidney disease, then we should check our kidneys at least once in 6 months. And that's how it helps us to prevent the progression of the kidney disease, and sometimes it can cause regression of the kidney disease with some medications. If we detect it early and do some lifestyle changes, dietary modifications, some medicines which can help us to control the blood pressure, blood sugar levels, blood lipids, and the proteinuria, protein loss in the urine. If these are the things controlled well, then some patient who has already developed some stages of CKD like stage 3 or even stage 4 can have some regression of the improvement in the kidney function, and the progression of the kidney disease can be prevented. We can help them to reach the stage of dialysis or kidney transplantation.
Thank you, doctor. Doctor, can we avoid dialysis or kidney transplant?
Yes, to some extent, yes. We always try to help the patients to reach their late stage of kidney disease. If they are seen by a nephrologist, most of the times in early stage of the disease, particularly uncontrolled high blood pressure, uncontrolled blood sugar levels, or vascular diseases like renal artery stenosis, or some vasculitis, which is very active disease, and the progression of disease is very, very fast in such diseases. So it's not only the creatinine level, which is commonly used to detect the kidney function. So not only the creatinine level, the cause of the raise in the creatinine is more important. Suppose if, for example, a person, young healthy man, have a creatinine level of 1.5, that means his kidney function has gone down significantly. And we should find out without any chronic diseases like non-communicable diseases. Suppose the person presents to us with say 1.5 or 1.8 creatinine, then we need to check what is the cause of the disease. If the cause can be found, then we can modify, we can treat the cause of the disease, and sometimes we can cure them, or at least we can help them to prevent the progress of the disease. And in such cases, they are likely to live without dialysis or transplantation even for decades. They may not reach the stage of dialysis also. But suppose some elderly people, like a lady with 1.7 years lady with 1.5 of creatinine, then the glomerular filtration rate of GFR, which is the estimation of the kidney function, is completely different. And one should understand that by the time the creatinine elevates, the person has lost a lot of functioning kidney mass. That means, suppose there are 10 lakh filtering units, that is called the glomerulus, which is present in one kidney. A person comes with mildly raised creatinine, he or she might have lost say around 40% of this filtering units or the functional filtering units, then only the creatinine increases. So creatinine is not the only sign or level or lab test for diagnosing the kidney dysfunction. Patient can have a kidney dysfunction without raise of creatinine also. So we need to check other parameters of kidney dysfunction like uncontrolled high blood pressure, high protein levels in the urine, decrease in the hemoglobin level, listlessness, swelling in the feet, face and the body, breathlessness on mild exertion. So these are the signs and symptoms to understand that this person is likely to have kidney disease. We need to investigate extensively to find the cause and treat them accordingly.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you for elaborating us. And doctor, what are the treatment options available for kidney disease?
Yeah. There are non-medicinal treatment options which we advocate always before we go for medicines. Then there are medicines which will help to prevent the progression of disease or treat the kidney dysfunction. Then there are surgical options also available. For the diet modification, we need to see a most important thing to help the patients who are having early signs of kidney disease is salt intake. Salt is the most important cause for not only for kidney disease, for high blood pressure, for cardiovascular diseases or heart diseases, even for brain stroke. All these things, salt is the most important disease or most important cause. So if we minimize the salt intake, approximately we should be taking around 5 grams of salt, or that is around 1 teaspoon of salt in 24 hours. But our salt intake is very, very high, and that causes high blood pressure, that affects the kidneys, that affects the heart function, and it can lead to acute myocardial infarction, it can lead to stroke in the brain. So there are few places in the world where salt is completely not available, and it is seen that those people are much healthier and they have less disease incidences as compared to the other places where we have plenty of salt available. So salt is the most important thing I would like to stress upon. And how to decrease the salt intake? We cannot measure 5 grams of salt every day, because food also itself contains some sodium. So salt cannot completely avoid. Even though you stop taking salt, it doesn't mean that we are not taking sodium. So we should avoid high salt intake, salty food, and no extra salt while taking food. No extra salt, that is very, very important. Third thing is less salt in our regular. So these three things can decrease the salt intake by us. Second thing is our fast foods. Fast foods, always contain high salt. Whether it is, I don't want to take the names, but wherever you go take fast food, you will have a lot of salt in that. And then comes to the oil and hydrogenated oil, that is the ghee. So these also should be curtailed in our diet. Once in a while, taking maybe a little extra salt is not going to harm much, but when it becomes a habit to take extra salt or high salt diet, it is going to harm. And rest of the things, like not only salt intake or diet, but lifestyle changes. Regular exercise is very, very important. every day we should be doing at least 30 minutes of exercise, whether it is jogging, walking, swimming, cycling, whatever way. So 30 minutes of exercise in a day in 24 hours is very, very important and very, very required nowadays. Because the stressful lifestyle what we are going through every day, we need a lot of exercise. Not only exercise, we should be doing some yoga, which will decrease our stress. And once we decrease the stress, the hormone levels like epinephrine, non-epinephrine in our body will be under control, and that also will help us to prevent the non-communicable diseases.
Thank you, doctor. One of our viewer is asking, her name is Arpana. Sir, please tell why suddenly pulse goes high to 220 and if laser surgery is the only option left.
There are two things in the question. One is the heart rate or the pulse rate, and the second thing is the laser surgery. Pulse rate or heart rate, again, it depends like many things. It's not like for one cause it goes up. So it can be due to stress, one thing. It can be due to your decreased oxygenation level, or it can be due to exercise. So it is not clearly mentioned whether it is due to what the heart rate goes up in a particular person. And laser surgery is not specific for one surgery. Laser surgery is used for anything and everything in our surgery. It can be used for eye in retina, it can be used in urological surgery. So what type of laser surgery we don't know. But when it comes to our kidney and urinary tract, the laser surgeries are used for breaking bigger size stones, and it can be made into smaller size stones in the kidney and urinary tract, and we can remove it easily when it becomes a small size stone. And the obstruction to the kidneys, again one of the commonest cause of kidney disease, can be relieved by removing the stones with a laser surgery. That is called I think lithotripsy, or breaking of the stone. So the obstructive lesions in the kidney also should be treated properly, because over a period of time, if you don't remove the obstruction, the pressure on the kidneys builds up. So the pressure on the kidney will cause over a period of time, months, or if it is left untreated, can lead to dysfunction of the kidneys. So that's how the obstruction due to either stone or any other structural obstruction should be treated as early as possible to remove the obstruction and kidney dysfunction, prevention of kidney dysfunction.
Thank you, doctor. Doctor, another viewer is asking, his name is Adresh. He's telling like he's having 11 into 5 mm right upper uteral stone. Suggestion required, age 20. And he's like using thiamoxulin hydrochloride 4 mg medicine. It is
0.4
effective.
milligram.
Yes, yes. Is it effective or harmful for breaking kidney stones? He's asking two questions.
See, basically kidney stones is what is the composition and the position of the stone. So as he mentioned, it is an upper ureteric stone or upper ureteric calculus. It has to be removed if it is 10 millimeter or more, unless it is coming out on its own. Suppose he tried with some painkillers and also taking a lot of extra liquid, because many times when we take more liquid, the urine formation is more and the urine is more diluted. So there is some chance that the stone may come out, but when a 11 mm stone is quite big enough, which is unlikely to come out without any surgical procedure. So this stone has to be, if it is an upper ureteric stone, probably it is already causing an obstruction to the urinary flow, and the same unilateral, the ipsilateral kidney must be swollen and then lot of pain in the ureteric calculus. So it need to be removed, and it has to be treated with putting a which what we call a double J stent or DJ stent, and the medicine is not going to help if it is obstructing the kidney flow. But if the stone sometimes inside the kidney, which is not obstructing the urinary flow, that may not need immediate removal or surgery, because the commonest cause of stone formation in our kidneys is decreased liquid intake or water intake and excess salt intake. So that is again one cause. When we take lot of extra salt and less liquid intake, the urine gets concentrated over a period of time, and due to the excess solute load in the kidneys, the kidney stone formation occurs, and it starts with a nidus over which the solutes get deposited. Most commonly it becomes calcium stone, it can be a calcium oxalate, or it can be different types of stones called cystine stones, which is not due to only liquid intake but other causes also. There are calcium oxalate, struvite stones, or infection related stones. So there are different types of stones, but most common cause is due to excess salt intake and decreased liquid intake. So if it is a small stone which is not obstructing the urinary flow, can be treated with increase in the water intake and decrease in the salt intake. And there are some medications which decreases the calcium excretion in the urine. So that will also help in preventing stone formation. Not only stone formation, the small stones can be dissolved over a period of time if proper diet and the liquid intake is followed over a few months of time.
He is asking another question. What alkalizer should I use to get right from stool? And also prescribe a diet chart, do's and don'ts. So doctor already told about the salt intake
Yeah,
and all.
diet, as I told you.
Mhm.
Not only that, there are many food like proper non-veg, mostly it's red meat. If we take a lot of red meat, then the solute load is more on the kidneys, and not only the solute load, if it is patient is already having some kidney dysfunction, the creatinine levels are going to go up, and liquid intake is very important to treat and also to prevent urological stones and decrease your salt intake. And also, if we are taking a lot of calcium supplements or vitamin D supplements, unless otherwise it is indicated, if we take a lot of calcium supplement over long period of time, the months or years together, and these people also likely to have more renal stones or kidney stones.
Yes. Thank you, doctor. Another viewer is asking, doctor, please tell how can 4.5 creatine reduce or come down?
See, 4.5 creatinine is not like one disease. 4.5 creatinine is one laboratory indication that the patient has one kidney disease or kidney dysfunction. So, first thing is we need to see why the person has a 4.5 creatinine. Is it due to some active kidney disease, or if it is due to some chronic kidney diseases which have developed over a long period of time? If it is acute and active disease, probably like we can treat it, and depending on the cause again, what is the cause of this kidney dysfunction? Why the creatinine has gone up? Not only creatinine, we need to evaluate what is the structure of the kidneys, what is the the drainage system of the kidneys, that is kidney and the urinary tract. Is there an obstruction? If there is an infection, like associated infection, like you have causes of acute kidney injury, probably dehydration, or it's like some infection like septicemia, or it is due to malaria or typhoid. So 4.5 is not the cause of kidney disease. We don't know what is the cause of this kidney dysfunction. We need to find out the cause, then accordingly we need to treat it. So sometimes, suppose it's chronic kidney disease also, like due to diabetic nephropathy or uncontrolled high blood pressure, or due to chronic tubular interstitial nephritis. There, suppose the patient has a lot of proteinuria, then treating this proteinuria, uncontrolled high blood pressure, or diabetic nephropathy, this creatinine is likely to improve. If it is a chronic kidney disease, it is not going to get to normal again, but it's likely to improve if we correct. Not only this, we need to correct the acidosis, we need to correct the hemoglobin levels. So once you correct all these associated features, probably there will be some improvement in the kidney function, that is improvement creatinine levels. So first thing is you need to see the cause of this high or raised creatinine.
Thank you, doctor. Another viewer is asking, can vitamin D damage kidney? So already doctor
As
mentioned.
I told you, vitamin D, most of us, if we check the serum vitamin D levels, the serum vitamin level is much lower than expected in many of the our Indian nationals, not only Indian nationals, all over the world. The vitamin D levels are less than the normal range. So in those cases, probably you need to correct the vitamin D level. But overtaking of this vitamin D levels, we have seen patients who are taking vitamin D level very high doses, 60,000 units once in a week for some months together. Those patients are likely to have any kidney damage or kidney disease with calculus stages. So formation of stones or formation of calcinosis inside the kidney. So this should be avoided. Not only this, any over-the-counter drugs, unless otherwise properly prescribed with the duration and doses, should be avoided by each and every people unless it is properly indicated by a physician.
Okay. And the viewer Christian is telling, over a period of 8 months, he is getting his like creatinine level is higher. It is due to hypertension and proteinuria.
Yes. See, hypertension, proteinuria, and kidney dysfunction. This can happen in few of the diseases. So we need to check the cause. Again, I'm stressing upon the cause of the kidney disease. The kidney disease is not itself a disease; it's a manifestation of many diseases. So it can be due to to name few, it can be due to membranous nephropathy. Membranous nephropathy is a disease where you will have high blood pressure, you can have dysfunction of the kidneys, you can have proteinuria, so or you can have benign nephrosclerosis. So that is due to high blood pressure. When you will have proteinuria, you will have high blood pressure. Again, you will have raised serum creatinine levels. So you need to always diagnose the disease, then treat accordingly. So, but most important thing is whatever the cause, you need to control the high blood pressure levels. Once you control the high blood pressure levels, the proteinuria, that is the loss of protein in the urine, is likely to come down. It is like filtering your tea. Suppose you give more pressure from the upper side, the filter is going to filter more. If you decrease the pressure on the filtration, the filter rate will be less. So, so this is simple physics to some extent. The high blood pressure, uncontrolled high blood pressure, is going to have more urine loss, urine protein loss. So first thing is, when you have proteinuria, the blood pressure should be systolic blood pressure, that is the higher blood pressure should be always as less as possible without any signs and symptoms of low blood pressure with the patient. That means the systolic blood pressure should be 120, or if the patient has a diabetic, it can be as low as 110 milliliter mercury. And there are other medications which can decrease the protein loss in the urine. They are called ARBs, ACE inhibitors. So these are the medications which can decrease the loss of protein in the urine. That also will help in controlling the blood pressure. So these are the medications which can be used not only in diabetic nephropathy, it can be used in hypertension with proteinuria or any other cause of proteinuria where we want to decrease the loss of protein in the urine. So these are the drugs which are called nephroprotective. Then they can protect the loss of function of the kidneys. It can reverse the kidney function, or at least it can prevent the progress of the kidney function over a long period of time. These are very, very helpful. But only thing, there are few side effects which has to be kept in mind. These drugs can increase the serum potassium levels. Potassium is an element in the blood which can get increased with these drugs. So when these drugs are being used, we need to monitor the serum potassium levels. Otherwise, if there is a high blood serum potassium level, it can affect the heart rate, heart rhythm, and it can cause serious problem in the heart. Unless it is checked regularly, we should not prescribe levels of ARBs and drugs like ARBs and ACE inhibitors. But there are few conditions or few diseases in the kidney which can present with low potassium levels. Normally, the potassium levels in the kidney failure patients are higher side, Whereas there are few diseases where you can have hypokalemia or low potassium levels. In those patients, probably this will be more helpful, and the chances of getting high serum potassium level is very less. We can use higher doses of drugs like ARBs and AC inhibitors, and it is going to help them more.
Thank you, doctor. Another viewer is asking, like ureteral stent effective or not?
Yes, of course, it is effective wherever it is indicated. If it is indicated that doctor feels and suggests that it has to be done, this is called ureteric stent is called DJ stent or double J stent, because it keeps the ureteral passage patent, and it helps to prevent restenosis or again reclosing of the ureteral or the draining of the kidney urine from the kidney, and it has to be kept for a few days to few weeks depending on the indication of the stent. And if it is advised, definitely it is helpful. Otherwise, it would not have been advised by the doctor.
Thank you, doctor. One of the viewer, Mainpal, is asking, what is if creatine increases to 8 from 1 in 1 year? Is it recoverable?
Is it 0.8 to 1? Because it is increased means it has to be 0.1 in 1 year. So it must be 0.8. So yeah, definitely it is significant that I can say it's increasing from 0.1 to 1 is significant. We should understand that even though 1 is in normal reference range of serum creatinine, but the raise from 0.1 to 1, 0.8 to 1 without any other cause, we need to worry. We need to find out the cause, why it is increasing so fast. And the cause can be like anything. It can be due to some chronic kidney diseases. Most common glomerulonephritis worldwide is IgA nephropathy, immunoglobulin A nephropathy. So this can present diseases like increase in serum creatinine, high blood pressure. There can be microscopic hematuria, that is RBC present in the urine. Normally, a person should not be passing RBC in the urine, or at best 0 to 2 RBC in one microscopic high power field. Whereas if the person is passing more amount of RBC, some amount of protein, and there's a high uncontrolled blood pressure, there is mildly increase in the serum creatinine levels, that we need to worry and check it whether it is there or not there. If it is there, we need to treat it as early as possible to prevent the progression of the disease, because IgA nephropathy can present with varied presentation. It can present like only with microscopic hematuria or only RBC in the urine, or it can present with uncontrolled high blood pressure in very young people, or it can present with fast progressing kidney dysfunction conditions called crescentic IgA nephropathy, which is very active kidney disease with IgA, or it directly can present with end-stage renal disease also. So this is very significant, should be investigated. If we come to the other treatment modalities, we should not miss the most important thing is dialysis and kidney transplantation. So this is basically the treatment which is offered to a patient who has a CKD stage 5, chronic kidney disease stage 5, or end-stage renal disease, which is irreversible damage to the kidneys and which is not likely to improve. So these patients are to be treated with RRT, that is called replacement therapy for the kidneys. It can be dialysis, or dialysis can be again hemodialysis or blood dialysis, or dialysis. So blood dialysis, which is very commonly known as hemodialysis, it is done in the health centers or dialysis centers, whereas peritoneal dialysis can be done at home by the patient and the patient's attendants or relations, somebody who is there to help the patient at home. Peritoneal dialysis is done through a small tube in the stomach, that is the abdomen, which is placed inside the abdomen with a small surgery, and there are some liquids which will be filled to the abdomen, and it is kept for say around 3 to 4 hours, commonly 4 hours, and it is drained up to 4 hours. The mechanism how it works is the peritoneal membrane. We have peritoneal membrane inside of the abdomen, which is approximately the surface area of the person himself or herself. So this peritoneal membrane acts as a filter, and through that filter, the toxic materials, what we call lamenta, from the waste products is getting cleared through the fluid, and the fluid gets drained. So this is one type of dialysis. The other type, as we know, is hemodialysis. Other than dialysis, is the better modality of treatment is kidney transplantation. So kidney transplantation is a surgery where we transplant kidney from another person's body, or it can be a live donor, or it can be a cadaveric donor. Cadaveric donor, when, as we know, the brain dead persons, if the family agrees to or gives consent to donate their organs, then the kidney can be transplanted to the CKD stage 5 patients. In those cases, the longevity and the outcomes are much better as compared to dialysis patients who stay for a longer time over a period of say years or decades. But the longevity, the lifestyle, the everything is much better in kidney transplant patients, because the person's almost like success rate at kidney transplantation at present is more than 95% at 1 year, up to 98% at 1 year, because of the availability of good immunosuppressive medications and regular follow-up by the patient, and just chances of secondary infection which were there previously, now this incidence of secondary infection is much less as compared to the previous days. So we will always like the patient to have a kidney transplantation if there is a irreversible kidney damage. If the patient can have a donor for himself or herself.
Thank you, viewers. Thank you, doctor, for answering all the questions and enlightening us regarding the kidney health and kidney disease. And if you have any queries, viewers, you can comment us on the comment box. We will address you after this live session. And if you want to book an appointment, you can book through our website www.askapollo.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all the viewers. Thank you. Namaste.